Welcome back to another episode of Code Talk. I'm Mark. My co-host Gary is not here. That poses a problem. Well, Pete, this is Prickly Pete. You think you can help me out on this conversation today? Pete doesn't talk. That's a problem. Today, we're going to talk about one of Peoria's greatest resources, and that is water, and how we can save it and keep it one of our greatest resources. I'm not really an expert on water, so how about I get some help on this topic? I'm going to bring in Victoria Castor, water coordinator and sustainability coordinator. If you can just join the show and help me out with this.
Hello there. Good morning.
Thanks for helping me out.
Yes, sure.
Wouldn't you agree that this is probably one of Peoria's greatest resources?
Definitely. Water in the desert is our greatest asset and our most cherished resource. We have to have it to thrive. And so definitely has to be protected and planned for very carefully.
So if you can tell our viewers a little bit about what your role is in the city and how you help secure this vital resource in the city.
Definitely. So my group is the Conservation and Sustainability Group. And not only do we do sustainability on a large scale for the city, but we also run and manage all of the water conservation programs for the city. So we are out there with the residents, actively helping them figure out where the efficiencies are in their homes and their landscapes, how they can save water. We have rebate programs and education classes. So lots of information so that people can learn how to work with our desert rather than against it.
Obviously, in code, we get a lot of calls and we have to deal with these calls. And we do get a lot of water calls that come into our office, and that's how we deal. What is probably your number one call that comes into your office?
Sure. We get calls about lots of different things, but one of the ones that ties into code really nicely is the water misuse or the water waste calls. So in Peoria, as in most cities in the state of Arizona, water that flows off of your property into the street or sidewalk is against our code. So we call that water misuse. Oftentimes it's landscaping water, which falls into our wheel hub. So we get those calls, get those reports through a couple different options. We have the Peoria Reporter app, as well as on our own website, which is peoriaaz.gov/water conservation. Folks can report it. They can send pictures. We'll go check it out. And it's all about education for us. So we've got door hangers, we have resources, we have pin flags. We can actually show where the leak is in the yard and help folks kind of know that there's a problem. Landscape, usually, right, if we're setting it right, that water should run really early in the morning. We're not always there putting our eyes on the things, and so we may not know that the water that you see each morning is actually coming from your property. And so that's just a way that we help educate so that residents know that there's a problem, and then we have resources to help them try and fix it.
So I wanted to educate myself a little bit before I had this conversation with you. So here is a couple little fun facts that I did learn, that over a month's time, a broken sprinkler head in somebody's property can lead up to 4,200 gallons of wasted water. And that is a lot of water. And that it comes into code as one of our calls that we have to go out and try to deal with immediately, because the more runoff that we have, the more water that we're wasting. So we kind of want to get on top of that. And also one of the other calls that come into our office that we try to go out and address immediately is how people drain their pools.
Yes.
And everybody doesn't understand that they need to drain their pool a certain way and not run that hose out to the street and just start draining their pool. And can you kind of tell our citizens how they can properly drain the pool?
Definitely. So kind of a fun fact that ties into that is that in Arizona, our stormwater, so all of the water that rains, that also runs out down the street, but anything that we put down the street goes directly into our drainage basins, which are often your parks, our river systems, and our washes. It's not treated. So when we're putting that pool water down the street, it's going directly, all those chemicals are going directly into the environment. So the best way for pools is that usually it's in the front of the house. It depends on your home and the age of it. There's that black round, we'll call it a pipe, and it actually has a rectangle on it. So it has a square, black square. That is your sanitary sewer drain. That is where you should be putting your hose to drain your pool so that it actually goes to our wastewater collection plant and it gets treated.
Because that's the biggest argument that homeowners have when we come out to your property is like, oh, it's not hurting anything. It really is hurting our environment. So when you are going to drain your pool, if you can help us out, and properly drain the pool, that will be very helpful for us.
And regular backwashing, if you have Bermuda or if you have other salt-tolerant plants, you can do some of that minor backwashing into your landscape with certain plants. But for large amounts of water like pool draining, it definitely needs to go down the sewer.
And here's another fun fact. And most of our water issues and most of the water usage comes from where, do you think?
In a home?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is, so more than 50% of a home's average water use is outdoors.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would think it would be with my kids' long showers, but I guess not.
Yeah. So landscaping is the lowest hanging fruit. That's where so much of our water is. And it's also the easiest place for us to learn and to get efficient is outdoors.
Here's another question. What does the city have in place to address water source challenges that may come up?
Certainly. So water has been in the news a lot the last few years, as everyone I'm sure is aware. In Peoria, we have three main water sources. We have the SRP, or the Salt River water. We have CAP, which is our Colorado River water. And then we have recharged and reclaimed water. So those are our three main sources. And they're almost even, somewhere between like 25 and 35 kind of percent on an average there. And so the Colorado River is the one that we're hearing the most about in the news and has the most strongest challenges right now. And that is a water source that we are currently only using about 60% of what we actually get. So we have a little bit of a buffer, but Peoria is also growing as well. And so we're actually in a nice spot to be able to be really smart about planning and ahead of the game, because we're not currently already using all that supply. But the river is over allocated. So the Colorado River, more water gets taken from all the states than goes in annually. And so in a couple years, the federal government is going to have to renegotiate with all the states how much water is getting. So we will see reductions in the Colorado River water, even though we are not really seeing any right now. So it's coming down the future, but Peoria is really well set to be able to handle that. And we've got the time to really think smart about our growth so that we can account for that.
So it doesn't really fall totally on the city as far as how we supply water and get water. It's kind of a collaborated effort with the state and the federal government to make sure that we're properly supplied.
It's kind of actually still all on the city. So it's our responsibility. So we are definitely, when it comes to our state, it's definitely locally structured and the strength there. And every city has a different water source. So it's usually some mix kind of those three, but there are cities that have a much larger take of Colorado River water than they have others. And so it is different in every city, and it really actually is up to that city to make sure that we have enough water. Peoria is part of the active management area in Phoenix, so we're required to have it's called an assured supply of water. So we have to ensure that we have a 100-year supply of anything that gets built into our city. And so that means that we're planning for these items, because in Arizona, extremes are kind of our normal, it seems like here. And so, decades ago, we were already been planning for these types of ebbs and flows in our system. Things are shifting and they're getting a little bit different. So there's definitely going to be some changes in the coming years. But for the most part, like we're forward thinking and been planning ahead for it. And it's never going to be that, you're going to turn on your tap and there's no water due to source stress. Currently, there's a whole lot of stuff going through council and lots of work that's being done to make sure that we have redundancy in the parts of our cities that get more Colorado River water. So we've got wells that are being built and other things so that we have that redundancy.
The great thing is Peoria is growing, but on the flip side, we got to take care of one of our most important resources. And that's where it comes back to our citizens to help us out. And how can we find leaks and inefficiencies at our homes? What are some ways?
Definitely. So leaks happen. They're very common. The EPA says that on average, about 10% of a home's water use is actually leaks. So it definitely would show a difference in the cost that you're paying in your water bill if you were to fix them. The easiest way to check and see if you have a leak is using your ears, right? Do you hear water running? So especially inside your home. Toilets are the sneaky culprits in everyone's home that people just get used to the sounds and don't think about it. But toilet leaks, which are simply just that flapper, we have really hard water. Really, those flappers need to be changed out about every 2 years because our hard water starts to calcify and you don't get a tight seal. And so you have those flapper leaks all the time. And those pieces are like really cheap and relatively easy to do on your own. So that's simple. And the rest is going to, of course, be outside. If you have an irrigation schedule that is set really early or late and you're never there to see it, we really do recommend that folks do a manual run once every month or two and walk through your landscape and look around while it's running to be able to identify those leaks. And of course, the first rule is to go to your meter. And we actually have videos online, as well as this is part of our landscape consultations that we do with residents. We'll walk you through how to look at your water meter, make sure that all the water is off in your home. Is that water meter still moving? And then you can isolate whether it's indoors or outdoors by using your backflow. And so there's a way to that's like the easiest way to quickly see if you have a leak.
That's an excellent tip, because I recently just had a call about some sprinklers, and one of the heads actually got turned and was not even being utilized correctly and watering the grass. It was actually watering the street. But luckily a neighbor called us and we got out there and we were able to speak with the homeowner. And it was one of those things, the sprinkler system comes out so early that they didn't even know. So they were able to get adjusted and save that water.
It usually can be relatively quick and easy fixes. That's why we have the education as our standpoint. It started is most of the time folks don't even know that they have a leak, or they don't know how to fix it. And so it's just a matter of making sure that once a month, and you should be adjusting your irrigation schedule monthly anyway, because as our temperatures change and the plant's water needs change monthly, we should be adjusting. So that's a really good tool to go out there once a month and also just check your system.
And you talked about like educating the public. Does the city of Peoria have any educational programs that are available to help the citizens learn a little bit more about finding some of these inefficiencies and leaks and things like that?
Yes, we do. So we have a bunch of programs, but the most well-known is probably our Sustainable University classes. So these are water and sustainability classes that we offer through the spring and through the fall. They are normally housed at our Rio Vista Recreation Center. They're free to the public, and we offer classes all the way from rainwater harvesting, irrigation fixing and troubleshooting, to vegetable gardening, and to energy efficiency. And so we have a whole host of classes that really are focused on, we have a lot of people from all over the place, and they're not really familiar with how they can make their water use and their landscape work for them here. And so we have a lot of classes that are meant to really make people understand how it's different in Arizona and how they can have their landscape thrive without just dumping water on it. Because when we get hot and it's miserable, it's summer, something looks bad, let's turn up the water. And that's not always the answer for our desert plants.
Because that's some of the education that we give homeowners, but also when we go out and maybe there's a leak in their landscaping or thing like that. And like, well, how much are you watering your plants? Because the way we're looking at your plants, you look like you're overwatering. And everybody thinks just because we live in a desert that we got to pour more and more and more water on it, and you're actually hurting the vegetation. So educating yourself about how to water your plants can also help your water bill. Because we do charge you for your water. So,
and rates are not going down, that's for sure. And then that's a really great point, is that most people aren't familiar with drip systems, and that's the majority of what we have. If you have shrubs and trees, it's often on a drip system. That's kind of depending where you're coming from in the country, that's nomenclature, that's not normal. Drip systems need to be run in hours, not minutes, because each one of those little emitters is running at 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 gallons per hour. And so oftentimes a default setting on controllers is 10 minutes every day. That means we're spitting at the ground 10 minutes a day, but we're not getting that deep watering which our plants need. Right? The water needs to get down deeply to the roots, which makes the plants thrive and actually better able to handle our extreme temperatures. So water deeply, but infrequently, and drip systems should be run in hours and not minutes.
I bet you some of our landscaping companies probably don't even realize that. So you can use this educational program. Who decides what type of phase that we might be in? Because sometimes we hear on the media that, we're in this type of phase as far as water restrictions and things like that.
Sure. So the city of Peoria has a drought management plan. It is a plan that kind of steps us through if we do have actual reductions to our water sources. What are some of the options? Currently, we are in a stage 1, which is a water watch that was instigated last summer. Basically, that just means we as a city need to lead by example and reduce our water use by 5%. And our parks and our water services department and our public works, they have actually rose to that challenge and have already met that. There are other phases that would go off that would then go maybe to the public and then ask for some voluntary reductions or some mandatory reductions. All of that, though, has to be determined by council. So when that day comes and we have actual reductions to the city's water use that would impact us and what we actually have to provide, then it would be up to the city manager and the council to choose which option. So our plan has like a menu of options that we could use at all those different phases, and it's up to them to choose which ones they would like to go forward.
But the big thing is we need your help. And that's how we stay in the good positive phases, by watching your landscaping, being, conservative on your water, and just making sure that I didn't know that we had a 100-year plan, and keeping water so that we will be good for 100 years and for our children and beyond. So that's really important. I really appreciate you coming and educating me and educating our public on a little bit of code talk. I learned a little bit more. So when I come out to a call that we have to work, I'll be a little bit better educated. And you helped me out since Gary's a little bit under the weather, and we haven't really figured out how Prickly Pete can talk. So he really wasn't very useful. So you really kind of helped me out. So thank you, Victoria. And for our next episode, we're going to talk a little bit about some other resources that are available that can help you around your properties. So until next time, I'm Mark. That's Pete. That's Victoria. Have a great day.